Hey guys, FatBuddyCat here. It's fun going fast, but sometimes we gotta hit the brakes. And that can be fun too. As long as there's something there. Alright, went over to gopowersports.com and I grabbed a pair of rear brake pads for the Trailmaster MB200-2. I think the first thing we're gonna have to do is take off these 10mm bolts and get our caliper off. Alright, I got my two bolts down there. I got an Allen's wrench for these two right here, and I'm going to use a Phillips and just loosen this cover up here so we can take a look at what's going on. And just like that, with the cover and screw off, we look down and we can see that we have a spring that's pressing outward on two brake pads. Okay, so we'll be taking these off and they'll come out like dowels, and they should drop the pads and the spring down. We'll put the new pads up, align the spring, and then put our bolts back in. It seems pretty straightforward. This is actually pretty neat what they did. They threaded the side with the head, okay, that's on this side, so that everything can feed seamlessly through, and then over here, somewhere in the mold, there'll be a hole that receives the pin. Okay, I removed both pins. This drops down. This is how you'll see it. Alright, you take your pads off, and it's just a simple spring. So we'll put the other pads on the exact same way. Got the new ones right here. Okay, and the spring just kind of pressure fits down over it like a fork. And that's what holds it in there. Then once it's in place, those dowels will do the rest. So here's what it should look like when you're done putting in the spring. That's it, guys. Just barely pressure fit in. Next, I'm going to feed it up into the caliper and then put those dowel pins, we'll call them, in, and then we'll tighten them. Just like that. That was a breeze. Those things went in there like nothing. Now I'll just tighten these two, and I think we'll put it back on. Okay, I'm in. I'm fully tightened. I'm going to put that cap back on, put the screw in. Now you just make sure to get your rotor in between your two pads. Line up your caliper with the two holes. And then you're going to take your 10mm bolts with your lock washer, tighten those on. Now you pump your hydraulic brakes back up until they're nice and firm. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is remove these two screws and top off my reservoir. Alright, and being careful, I'm just going to add a little bit of DOT3 brake fluid. Last thing you're going to do is tighten down your cover, alright? When you do this, guys, use a proportional amount of downforce to your twist, alright? Don't over torque things, and don't use the wrong screwdriver. Don't strip these out. If you do, it's not fun. Alright, now you sit on the bike, pump them up again, roll it backwards and forwards. Really pull on it. Get a good sway going. Alright. You want to make sure they work before you even turn the bike on. Alright, so how about a review of that hot action? Well, better yet, a review of that hot action. Why don't we just get a damage report? Oh boy, guys. Fresh brake pads. Okay, I'm getting 8 to 10 laps, and then I'm running out of brakes. No stopping power. Can't even lock it up. The reason it's doing that is from heat. Alright? And I didn't notice it quite as much in the older pads, the originals that came with this. But the ones that I got from Go Power Sports looked like they were maybe a little bit heavier on the metallic content and not so much the carbon. What that might be doing, guys, is holding on to heat or dissipating heat differently in order to extend the length of the brake pad. Possibility. These things were a breeze to change. If I wasn't recording it, like 5 minutes. So I don't know. I'm not even sure that these are worn out now. May have been a heat issue all along. I thought maybe I was glazed on the rotor, which you can see, you know, definite signs of temperature. But I don't know, guys. You might have to resurface this or look at something here. It could just be the size of the unit. It gets so hot, you know, that the fluid heats up, it expands, and it doesn't squeeze. But I really don't think that's the case. I think it's in the pads. But the bad thing? No, because if the pads were to heat up and they were too high in a carbon content, then they would grab and you would be locking up your rear end all the time. So give and take. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we're going to need a front brake. I think those are back in stock again. So other than that, the motor ran great. The only thing that I did is I got rid of the inline fuel filter that I had. There's still the fuel filter that's inlaid in the bottom of the tank, you know, right where the petcock is. And then I still kept our valve. So after I did that, I got a little bit better idle, and I definitely got a little bit more mid to top end. I noticed I was getting like a little backfire skip thing that shouldn't have been happening. And I looked down at the filter and I noticed that there was not the right amount of gas on the filtered side. It looked a little low. This thing eats it, guys, and I don't think it was keeping up. They make some that are actually high flowing, so it is a thing. Beyond that, the foot pegs on this thing, these are absolute garbage. You know, it's probably why they gave us a spare set back here. These things, that one's bent, okay, some. This one's bent to the point of not being usable. Your foot just slides right off of it. It's bent down here on the front. I actually think we tweaked the C here, you know, whatever you want to call this. But I can see that's going to need a little heating up or a little hammer bang bang. And then we're going to have to do something about that. Because, you know, that's the definition of insanity. You know, repeating the same thing, expecting different results. So, you know, I don't think the B team is going to step up to the plate. The seat mod that I did is working excellent. I'm not having any trouble with that whatsoever. The wiggle that you do see is just because it doesn't fit completely on that spline, you know, dead tight, but it's not going anywhere. Little tiny tear right there, not sure what that's from. Other than that, after about 45 minutes of riding it the first time, this is probably my fault, the header came loose. Alright, and it was mostly on this side. Okay, this bolt backed off first. And I know that because this one was backed off slightly more than this one. When this motor was warmed up, after I put that header on, I should have retorqued this down. The gasket moves, it expands, it can create wiggle room. You got to close those gaps, and that's how you do it. Besides that, guys, this thing ran great. Oh yeah, one more thing, the throttle. This is not going to work. All right, that's how much free play I have before I even grab. So basically I'm dealing with that the whole time, right? So I gotta hold it here and not let it go much further past, you know. So not fun to deal with whatsoever. We're gonna go with something completely different, so hang on for that. We'll have a lot more in store for this bike. Oh yeah. Alright guys, and before I wrap things up, I'll just give you a quick review on these tires. The AO27 up front, absolutely love it. With this bike where I have so much power and the dual suspension, you can get light in the front a lot easier. And this tire likes to touch down, track, and go. I absolutely love them. You know, we're running those on the 212 Pro front and back, mostly because you can really lean on those side treads. Out back, the Sun F Power 2, guys, this thing was a blast. I really like the side treads on it. I feel like I can come down in the corners and play with the rear end more, and then hitch up on these big spikeroonies. You know, it's really an aggressive tire. If you're worried about the turf that you're riding it on, probably not the best one for you. But if you want to put some power to the ground and still have fun when you want to, because you're in control, that's a great option. So that's going to be all for tonight, guys. Alright, I gotta get some rest. I'm sure this bike does too. You guys have a good night. It's always a work in progress. Catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.